Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the SAP Fiori-side chat. We are very excited to have you join us today again. My name is Eugen Winschel from the SAP UX Product Management team, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts Keith Fisher and Peter Spielvogel. Good morning,
Hey
guys.
everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
Today's topic for the Fiori-side chat is innovating with SAP Fiori, and for that we have invited a great round of experts from the extended SAP family for a panel discussion. In today's round, we have SAP partners from the SAP App House Network join us, and as such, they do business transformation projects with SAP customers all the time, weaving in Fiori and design principles, each with their own flavor and flair. And today we have with us Andriana Michaels, Dan Barton, Paul Moderman, and Sean Sievertson. And welcome everyone. And to make it truly interactive, we invite all of you to ask questions and comment during our chat. And before we get started, we wanted to set a few ground rules. And for that, over to Keith.
Yeah, hi everyone. So the rules are pretty simple here, right? We try and keep things as active and interactive as possible. We are speaking about SAP technologies and approaches, and our partners included. We really want to stay focused on everybody's experience here with SAP Fiori. So we promise not to sell you anything. We promise not to follow up with you unless asked for. Our goal here is really to try having an informative discussion around innovation with SAP Fiori. So with that, I'll actually turn it over to Peter Spielvogel, who's also joined us as a co-host today. And Peter, maybe you can take us through a little bit further on the introductions and the rest of the agenda.
All right, thanks, Keith. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here today, especially with our external experts. I've known Paul, Sean, and Dan for now. We've interacted at TechEd and other events, and these guys are absolutely the champions of Fiori and also innovation and weaving those two things together. So I'm really excited to hear what we have to say about those topics. My name is Peter Spielvogel. I'm part of the SAP UX engineering product team. And let's go through the intros so we can the main topic.
Hi everybody, my name's Andy Michaels and I'm from SAP. I am a business development manager within our user experience and mobile practice. I really focus on helping our customers who are embarking out on Fiori implementations really plan for their UX transformation journey. So whether our customer is on ECC6 or they're implementing S/4HANA, we're definitely here to help and guide them through that process. Whether it's standard apps, custom apps, also engaging in design thinking sessions with our customers as well.
Welcome, Andy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul. I'm from Mindset Consulting. I play a lot of roles at Mindset. Sometimes I lead design sessions. Sometimes I do kind of solution architecture for our customers. Sometimes I get my hands dirty in the code. And I love all the various pieces of that. I think if you Google my name, you'll find a few books that you can buy that I am the author of, and I'll make like a nickel or two for everyone that sells. So please go buy them. Thank you.
That's awesome. Welcome, Paul. Sean.
Thanks, Keith. Good morning. I'm Sean in Convergent IS. I'm pretty passionate about designing and building things, so super fortunate to have an amazing team at Convergent IS to help do that. And happy to join you today. Thanks very much for the invites.
And last but not least, Dan. Dan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. So Dan Barton, co-founder of Blustonex. A lot like Paul, actually do a lot of different things within the UX practice, primarily leading design thinking workshops focused on human-centered design. And involved quite a lot around innovation via the SAP Cloud platform.
Welcome.
Paul's based in Minneapolis. Sean is in Calgary. Dan is based in the UK. I'm in Palo Alto, along with Eugen. Keith is in Vancouver, and Andy is based in Baltimore. So,
hey Peter, do you want to just tell people a little bit about the Zoom setup here with the Q&A and the chat, so we can allow people to ask questions and chat along the way here while we have the poll up?
Yeah, so we really want this to be an interactive session. We've got a few questions lined up, so you can enter your question in the chat and everyone can see it. You have a choice between chatting just to the hosts or to all attendees, I'd encourage you to chat with all the attendees so everyone can see your question and maybe put +1, which will help us prioritize. There's also a Q&A window. These are all accessible through kind of a shadow pop-up. If you scroll down on the screen, you'll see those things, and you'll have the ability to fire your questions in, and we'll read them off and make this live and interactive. So to kick things off, we've got this poll, where are you in your Fiori journey? And we've got a range of answers. No coincidence that can't really pick 5 in the middle. You've got to be kind of one or the other. So I think it'll really help the panelists if you can enter where you are in the journey, so we can make sure that the level of content is exactly where it needs to be. So pretty good mix. Third, using Fiori all day long. Multiple apps, about half. So pretty good mix in the middle of the journey. Hopefully we'll have some information for everyone in here of how you can take it to the next level. And if you think you're really on the cutting edge, these people will definitely push the boundaries for you a little bit.
Okay, so let's get started with the first question. To the panel, what is your experience with SAP Fiori and bringing to life business innovation? Because we have heard a lot about Fiori recently, and a lot of innovations coming also within Fiori. So what are your experience with projects around Fiori with business innovation?
Andy, you want to take a shot at that?
Sure, I'll go ahead and kick us off here.
Why not?
So,
yeah.
You know, I work with a lot of different customers, being at SAP, and I think business innovation means different things to different customers depending on really where they are in our product lifecycle. So for some of our customers, it could be, you know, mobilization of processes, and Fiori really allows us to do that pretty easily compared to the way it was in the past. It could be that simplification aspect, you know, taking that complex process and breaking it down for a very casual user. For other customers, you know, it's really about more advanced things around like automating processes or integration. I find a lot of my customers are really coming to us for that integration aspects. They've got a lot of different systems, sometimes multiple back-end SAP systems. How do we start bringing that data together and simplifying it? So I think it's different for each customer. It depends on where they are in that life cycle, and understanding, you know, where their users are having challenges and seeing where we can innovate. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd kind of, I'd echo what Andy said, and I think that journey for customers has changed, I'd say, considerably from when Fiori was introduced. So I can remember going back a few years where a lot of companies were looking for that killer app, which isn't necessarily the right approach. So sorry, I'll let the other panelists talk as well.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm sorry I jumped on you there. So our journey in helping people go through their journey has changed over the years too. Early on, when Fiori was kind of a new thing, a lot of times we actually started at the tech level with our customers in terms of what does this mean? How does the tech do what we need it to do to get there? And now it's really started to and continues to evolve into I have a business thing. How do I make the experience better for that? And that, like, going from like just installing the plumbing to like hanging the windows and making things nice and beautiful for people is where things have gotten like on a great rocket ship for us in that process.
Yeah, completely agree with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that it's easy to get lost in that pursuit of the perfect app or that next amazing app, and so much of the innovation comes back to, at the end of the day, we all have customers, and if we think about some of the basic principles of lean, if it's not helping your customer, and I don't mean like as SAP or as a partner, I mean, of course we need to help our immediate customer, but if we're not helping them help their customer, then we're losing sight of where the real compass for innovation needs to be aimed. And so that ability to go and add something, that ability to go and point directly at the people that are ultimately paying the bill, you know, that's really part of the definition of innovation to me, and I know for our team, I think all of us, is if if it's cool, but people aren't willing to pay for it, or it's not moving the needle to improve something that somebody is paying for, then it's a cool app, but it's not what I would classify as genuine innovation.
So I kind of follow-up question to that then. So I see a lot of customers, and I've even joined Andy on a couple where customers wander in there, and the first thought is it's a technical next step, right? We're going to implement Fiori, right? We're going to get this started as the next phase to our S4 migration, for example. So how do you flip the switch? You know, what are the secrets to flipping the switch here with customers to have them think about some business innovation and not just plopping in, you know, a launch pad and calling it good?
Yeah, it's not just as simple as turning it on.
Yeah, a lot of times we get approached and talk to sort of the technology layer at our customers, and one of the first things that we try to do, and we often get to, is like, okay, we love talking to you. You, our tech partner, who are you talking to about this thing? Let's all talk together about that, because that gets you a little bit away from the mode of like, yeah, okay, it's this service pack and this note implementation, and there now you have Fiori. Well, go find, like what Sean said, point the needle away from cool and go find somebody who hates something and make them happier.
Right.
In this COVID era where people are now remote and there's all kinds of new usability challenges, people working from home, they don't necessarily have a company provisioned device. What sort of requests are you getting today for innovating around UX with Fiori, and how can people solve that problem, preferably in a quick and cost-effective way? Paul, I see you nodding, so you can answer.
Well,
first.
yeah, no, it's coming the let's see, I don't know how I want to put this. The trend is moving a little bit more and more toward the Fiori, but how do I get it out to the universe, right? So you start hearing a lot more about portal and cloud platform mixing with those things together to get that solution kind of all pieced together for, you know, I got customer ABC, partner XYZ, who all need to kind of go look at things. How can I get them all happy experience-wise? And that's where the mix of those things, the Fiori experience plus some of those tech enablers, they come together for that.
So Andy, do you so what are the techniques that you use to get people into the conversation if they're somewhat, you know,
Sure.
either not involved or not engaged?
Yeah, so there's two parts, and I apologize if you hear my kids running around in the background. That's the nature of the new world we're living in right now. But you know, one of the things that we do is when we're engaging with a customer, and a lot of times our key decision makers are far removed from the tactical product, right? And they want to understand, what is Fiori going to bring to the table? And so we do both like this enablement and design thinking workshop for those key stakeholders who wouldn't necessarily get that hands-on, because it really gives them a feel of what they're embarking on, what they're sponsoring, and how this can really help to transform their business. We joke, and Keith, you were with me in a workshop a number of months ago where just decomposing all of the terms and equating it back to which of their back-end systems and versions they could enable screen personas on, or they could access cloud platform, or they could use a machine learning model. Giving them that kind of level of information started to kind of open their eyes to what some of the possibilities and opportunities were. And it really helped them understand like what Fiori meant to them in each one of their systems. So that was definitely a start. And now that a lot of our customers are embracing design thinking, which is great. How do we do that virtually, right? And so we're using a lot more tools at SAP, which I'm sure every one of our partners is probably doing as well, changing the models of the way we did design thinking workshops, maybe minimizing some of the schedules, using tools like Mural or other whiteboarding tools to be able to kind of give some of the same experience. And I've actually found that we're doing things a little bit faster because everything's already digitized. So, you know, yeah, we like to use the Post-its and put them all over the place, and then we decompose them back. A lot of that's already done for us. So we can see some accelerations there, and we can look at getting some benefits out of the current situation as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of, so when we talk about the remote stuff and digitizing and remoteizing design thinking, there's this great, like when we do in-person design thinking, we mark off a lot of time for like the bio breaks and fun activities and things like that. But there's this world, if you're staring at a screen of somebody's face, you're like, your brain starts to think of them as less of a person a little bit. So I think adding those human touches and being smart about that in the remote sessions are just key, because my daughter is running around yelling at me too about things, right? And that would be happening if I was leading a real design thinking session right now. I'd have to be like, honey, I can't talk, you know, that kind of stuff. And everybody has those same problems. So there's this
very difficult,
like,
so I was going to say, Paul, it's difficult to show some of that human-centered design and empathy via digital media. It is quite a difficult wall to break down. As I think Andy said, like during COVID-19 and the situation that we all find ourselves in now, we've seen quite a surge in demand for better design, which is great. Which is great, but it does bring its own challenges. So I think, as you said, Paul, that, you know, whether it's user observation or doing what you do in your normal day-to-day workshops, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. But we do have at Blustonex, we kind of have a methodology, and as you said, I think breaking up design thinking sessions into smaller bite-sized chunks using some of the solutions that Andy mentioned before, like Mural, Build, are good ways to start breaking it up so people can understand, you know, what's involved in the process. I don't know if it's worth sharing, but I can share just a quick slide on that. It's not rocket science, to be honest, but hopefully you see there some of the tools that we use from Mural, obviously Microsoft Teams, and then you've got kind of surveys that you can run with users, prototyping sessions. So this might literally be, you know, scribing on bits of paper. I think Andy mentioned about using Build, the SAP product, to start bringing some of these prototypes to life. But we also use other things like Photoshop and InVision to do high fidelity Photoshop. But some of the things that I find important, you know, with remote design thinking is certainly preparation, keeping the sessions timed and a little bit shorter than you would usually. As we found on this session, testing the technology that you're going to use before the session, that's always a good one. And you always need a different type of facilitator, in my opinion, when you're doing remote kind of workshops. So I'll send this out anyway. This is just our interpretation. Whether it's right or wrong, it's kind of what we use as a guide, really.
Dan, you just mentioned you need a different skill set or like a different type of person to run these virtual events. Do you see like a change in like the skill set in terms of like you need to recruit new people, different people for that?
No, I just think that the skill sets that you are using with design thinking in mind should be agile enough to be able to flex their skill set. Kind of from my point of view, I would just, I would be looking for a more of a stronger facilitator, especially when it's remote, because you need the sessions a little bit more on time than as opposed to a physical session. You should let creativity blossom in physical sessions, but with remote, it can't, you've got, the office is a great place and the design center is a great place. It's an equalizer at the same time. People working from home, you might have distractions, so that's why it's a different way of managing a session, I think.
I would say also it becomes even more important to kind of limit the session to the key stakeholders and the people who are adding value and have the authority to make decisions. I find a lot of times everybody wants to be in the session, right? Because it's design thinking and it's cool. And when we're in person, sometimes we'll allow that. And some people are more of just observers than actual participants. But when you're in an online setting, it becomes so much more important to control the number in the audience. I prefer like 5 to 8. That's my general rule, but I'm sure the people have some experience with larger or keeping it smaller as well.
It's totally what you said, Andy. It's absolutely about making sure it's the people that need to be there and not too many. That's really the difference of tools like Build and others like that, where you can do that user research to validate the prototype. I mean, when you end up with too many people in the design session, you can very quickly end up in that designing a horse by committee kind of situation, and you end up with a camel. So keeping that design thinking session a little more focused, and then using some of those tools that many of us were using before this whole COVID situation to go and run that testing. Because when we're thinking about who we're designing for, we're not designing often for the people that are in that design session. We're designing for the people that ultimately need to go and test and validate the prototype and get us the feedback on it. So that ability to go and execute that testing at scale is so important, and the ability to participate and feel involved and feel engaged, feel like they help build it. It's there, right? I mean, you can totally do that, and we've got the tools and the toys to do that, COVID or no COVID, which is so reassuring, right? I mean, it's that element of computers can do that.
Yeah.
Just a question for you guys. Sorry, Andy, just a question for you guys and your experience, right? Because my experience of not having the right people in the room is probably a bad one. I've been scarred personally by that, where, it's called user experience for a reason. And we've run workshops in the past where we've asked for a section of the business to attend, and then actually find out that, yes, we've got the right stakeholders there who have an interest in what the particular application is doing. But then when we get further down the line into prototyping stages, the users are completely switched off because they weren't involved from the outset. So for me, it's a very fine balance of making sure you've got the right people in that room. Because, as I said, I've seen some horror shows where we've turned up and, we've gone through various stages with technical teams and stakeholders. And then as soon as you start early prototyping with the user will say, that will never work. What about this? What about that? And yeah, it's dead straight away. So that's a horror story, not a good story.
That's the Bob. Every team has a Bob. We call him Bob. Bob is going to show up, and Bob is going to tell you the million reasons why whatever anyone's talking about is never going to work. That is objectively harder too, right? Yeah. And during COVID, it's one of the things about whether Paul, Dan, Andy, any of us, we're part of the App House network, right? So we have the creative space. I know, Dan, you've got the virtual background, and I've just got my skis. Those are old. I don't actually ski on those. I like metal edges. But the idea of getting Bob, as we lovingly call that persona, and getting him out of his normal environment and getting them out of that natural environment and getting them engaged, getting that most cynical, most crotchety person involved somehow, and getting them to at least a maybe early is super important. It's an interesting way to orchestrate with the stakeholders to map who all needs to be there, and then find the right sections of the design process to include Bob, because you don't necessarily want the Bob in there for the entire design session, but you want him, you're right, Dan, feeling engaged up front 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about, a lot of people, when they hear Fiori, they think of a very set look and feel, and we've been promoting Fiori Elements a lot recently, which is a pretty tight specification about the layout and the format. Today's session's on Fiori and innovation. If you have this Fiori spec, how much room does that leave you for innovation? And how do you start with a customer pain point, bring that in, and end up with a Fiori experience, whatever that looks like, to meet the customer need?
So I think there's a couple ingredients at least to that, and I'll just start saying them out there. One is UX designers, like a person with that skill who may not even know anything about like SAP at all. We have designers who don't know a darn thing about SAP, But what they're great at and what they're trained in and what their education's all about is human empathy, right? And discovering, just like hearing a pain point and zeroing in on that and starting from that is one of the ways to do that. And then the Fiori spec above and beyond elements and those kind of things, once you sort of get the design tools that SAP provides for Fiori into those designers' hands, they're ninjas with that stuff, and they can make it happen and kind of craft it together from all the right bits and pieces. I'm a big proponent of designer as a person being great gets you to great places.
There is an interesting question from the audience to the panel. How can design thinking and its tools be used in an S/4HANA implementation given its disruptive and divergent mindset?
I'll jump in and try and take a stab at that one. So I think one of the things that often we embark on when we go into an S/4HANA project, maybe one of the pitfalls is that we just start activating apps and we just look at it from a number of apps perspective. And we forget to take that back to the end user's experience. And then we miss the opportunity to really craft a Launchpad experience that's tailored and personalized to a user or user group. By using design thinking to start to identify who those personas are, we can start to plan for how that Launchpad needs to look and what do the individual users need to have. And obviously we always have suggestions with standard roles, but it's really important for you to take the time to plan that out from those end user perspectives. So sometimes we use like hybrid versions of design thinking sessions to kind of get to know the user group and figure out what it is they need to do, and also to maybe identify some gaps in the process. I find when we take that approach, we find these little hidden gems and pockets where innovation opportunities start to come up, where we can, automate a process, or we can bring in some machine learning, or maybe something with character recognition to make it easier to process documents. It's when you start to take that approach that those elements start to get identified and we start to see some of those wins and opportunities. So I think it's really important that, it can still be an added value in an S/4HANA project. And it really takes us from the user's perspective rather than maybe the traditional way we're used to implementing SAP, which is more process driven.
Yeah, it's also, I think it's very much dependent on what type of implementation it is. So whether it's a re-implementation or, a migration, they bring different kind of options to the enterprise as well, I think. But yeah, they were good points.
Excellent. One of the things that I think we can all get behind as far as design thinking goes is how important prototyping is. So if we think about how the basic methodology around implementing S4 is laid out, I mean, you're supposed to go and explore it, right? And so this is very difficult to do without a prototype. And when we think about the most fundamental basics, building blocks of design thinking, it's go and get the prototype and make sure that prototype is designed with and for the personas that are really going to use it. And so, just like Andy said, those people need to think about the people. So often we get there's the best practice process, and then there's the technology, and SAP makes great technology, and SAP has great best practice processes, and we're just going to manage that onto the people. And then, before you know it, there's a whole group of people going, oh my God, what just happened to me? So that kind of feeling, and we've all been there. We've all seen the project Gantt charts that have like the change management bar at the bottom, and when the CFO is pitching it to the board, he's like, don't ask me about the bottom bar. Don't ask me about the bottom bar. But it all comes back to, go and understand who's going to use it. If you're doing an upgrade, you can think about taking the security roles, conversion upgrade, you take the security roles to get something to map your personas against, right? So then you can start to map the technical back to the people, and then you can go and bring that back through for prototype, and then test the heck out of it. Go and get all of those people to really go and try it before you get all the way into the build phase. So that's the idea of design thinking has prototyping and testing and validation at its heart. And so that ability to win the hearts and minds of people that are going to use it comes back to engaging them and testing them and checking with them first.
Yeah. Before we dive into kind of the next section, there was a great question that was asked in the Q&A, specifically with S4, we collectively promise a new user experience on Fiori, and for years the market has assumed that Fiori is just is the new GUI, right? Since activating Fiori apps is necessary, right, hundreds of them, would you suggest picking a top 10% or other number, obviously dependent on how much innovation they need, to go through the exploration and design thinking sessions? There's no way that we can, they indicate there's no way they can afford to prototype and think about all of those transactions.
That's a big question.
There is, but I like from my point of view, I'd agree with the with that comment really. I think like we have a series of myth busters, and one of them is that when you move to S4, depending on your circumstances, you might not get wall-to-wall, Fiori. And we do see a lot of customers still running SAP GUI. But I think, as Sean said earlier, unless you do that kind of due diligence at the very beginning to see what you could get, that's where people, especially if they're doing technical upgrades, a lot of standard apps, especially if you've customized your solution and you have a lot of Zs, you're not going to, you're not going to get those applications just switched on at the back end. So
I'm going to take this opportunity to plug an openSAP course. So we have a class that we just helped develop, and it actually came from our user experience architects at SAP who contributed to the content here. And it's called How to Deliver a Great User Experience with SAP S/4HANA. Course number is S4H18. It's actually running right now. It's a 3-week course, and we go through, how do you plan for your UX as part of your S/4HANA implementation? How do you deliver it? And then we also even get into how to innovate as well as you want to start driving towards that intelligent enterprise. So I think a lot of the questions you have there could be answered in that course. So I'm just going to shamelessly plug it. It's available to everybody.
Yeah, you can go ahead and plug the link into the chat as well if you want. If you have a link to just type it into the chat. That's great. If you allow me, I'm going to pivot here a little bit. It's like, because I'm always into the tangible, right? So we've had a great, great design thinking workshop. We have the right people in the room. So what are some of the examples of some of the innovations that any of you have kind of uncovered that really kind of demonstrate, bring home, how the technology aids in the innovation process? So, Paul, do you have like an example of things that, you would like to either show, or anybody else that kind of give you that wow factor, the thing that people are looking for when they think about Fiori and innovation?
Yeah, sure. Let me do the shared screen thing. There's tons of things that we've done, like innovation-wise with Fiori, that I think really represent a great set of ways that understanding the person first drives you to the right tech to do the innovations, right? So this is an example of a very simple set of, this is an InVision prototype of Fiori apps that were designed with a finance department in mind. And so for me, I don't know the first thing about like money and stuff. So it was great to get in and meet the people who do this thing and see what kind of things that they're doing and how the different apps and styles can help them with that stuff. So one thing is we actually prototyped and built out a chatbot, because we discovered that there were a serious set of finite, fungible questions that people tended to ask, especially at certain times in the financial cycle, that a chatbot was great at giving them answers for. So we put a chatbot right in there. And then we really looked at a couple of people in terms of what their financial duties were, and really kind of crafted and fine-tuned, okay, this analyst person doesn't need to create or update data. They need to view it and look at it and slice and dice it. So we focused very much on the cards and information view available to us in Fiori. And then with some of the other ones, we also had a great set of those, the card views that were really shaped toward the kinds of things that they think about and ask about. So that's one thing that we're really proud of. Another one is focusing on quality management inspections and really looking at the various both pieces of action, but also activities that somebody might take as they are the inspector person going about and doing the things in a plant, and really just giving you from soup to nuts visuals, interactions, enter some things, that kind of stuff, all in one sort of spot that takes them that puts the activity in their hands while they walk around and do the thing. So those are some of the things that I'm really proud of in what we've done as far as innovations for folks in the Fiori context.
Cool. So, and those, when you show this or you show a prototype of this back to the audience and the stakeholders, what's, I presume the reaction is positive, and does that actually drive more people trying to get into the process, to get into the backlog, if you will, of new applications?
It's incredible because we use various prototyping tools and Vision a lot. And what we find is that when we share, because we do a few stages of like share the prototype, get some feedback, fix it up, share the prototype, and that kind of stuff. And we find that the link to our prototype, as soon as we send the first prototype out, the link leaks out to tons of other people in the company because they're like, what? This is nuts that SAP can let me do something like this. Right. And so it's really one of the great sort of side effects of design thinking and prototyping and using Fiori is like the creation of evangelists within your customer or partner company, because we get a lot of return business from people who heard about the thing we did with this one thing.
Other examples or thoughts in this area of
I've kind of, I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder, but I've got it's probably a bad example, but I'll show it nonetheless. So just before I do, so obviously another kind of thing that I see, a lot of people are fixated by Fiori apps, but purely integrate into back-end SAP systems. Whereas now with some of the new tech via SAP Cloud Platform, you have other services there, such as like things like HANA-DB, which could be a standalone database in the cloud platform. And the beauty of it is you can bring those applications that are hanging off that database into the one Fiori Launchpad. So from a user point of view, it's a unified entry point or a universal entry point for the user. And those Fiori tiles could be an SAP system. They could be another, a non-SAP system. So what you're looking at here is SAC, so SAP Analytics Cloud. But sorry, as I was saying, Fiori Launchpad, and where we, when you talk about innovation, I think sometimes people are focused about integrating into traditional SAP processes, whereas with the use of some of the SAP Cloud Platform services, you can start using, as I said before, things like HANA-DB service. So you can start building applications that might not have any integration into SAP, but will help you removing some peripheral databases and simplifying your IT landscape, for example. So like this is just one example where we created a staff and visitor application. This is actually on the App Store as well, but it's an example where we're using a HANA database. We've actually integrated this to SuccessFactors for some customers. Other customers just buy it because it helps them with fire regulation. So, you come into the office in the morning either with an ID badge, but you'd click sign in, sign out. It's capturing this information for you. Same with visitor badges and things. We've gone away from your traditional SAP Fiori integrated apps and gone more down kind of, these are applications that may not have anything to do with SAP at all. From shopping cart apps to all sorts of applications that we've got on here. That's probably one example where you can start using these other services. Perversely enough, what we started doing, and I've got rid of a few customer names, but you can see here, I'm using a timesheet application within Blustonex for our consultants to capture timesheets, and then we have SAP Analytics Cloud to capture that information and kind of show it in a different way. So we are literally we're building what we're telling customers around innovation and using it internally within Blustonex. And yeah, it's an interesting concept because it takes you out of that mindset of just SAP integrated apps and always connecting to SAP systems, which is all well and good, but there are quite a lot of the times there are gaps within an IT landscape where you might want to start connecting to other systems or using standalone databases. But the point is that whole Fiori design is wrapped around whatever you are creating, so it's consistent from a user point of view.
Very cool. Sean, any ideas or examples from your perspective of some cool innovations that drive the point home?
You bet. Let's hope my screen is sharing here.
Yep.
One of the themes that we picked up, especially in the last, say, 2 months or so, is this concept of frugal. So one of the things around innovation that I was talking about a little bit earlier was the idea that innovation needs to be aimed at your customer. And so we're super important to be able to team up with Navi Raju and Paul Cortina to put together a webinar later this month to talk about frugal innovation. And so that idea of frugal innovation seems so much more apropos in the idea of not everything in SAP is 2 years long and $50 million. So how can we go and make that cost effective? So we're super excited, and yes, I did get the okay to share this. This is just a quick example here of a transportation related situation where you need to go and orchestrate all of the things that are coming to you and very, very quickly triage those and make an appointment for them. So when we think about some of the layouts and controls, you can really put some good information in front of somebody to go and help create a sense of a work list and give them the context on one screen to very quickly go do what you need to do. Another one that I really like in terms of a very, very quick overview. I know we've all loved the idea of a 360-degree view of the customer, and it's been this elusive thing that companies have searched for decades. But when we think about something, in this case, it's a banking situation. There's often the idea of going around a branch and hunting for somebody's signature card. Well, what if it was right there when you looked somebody up? And what if you saw oh, hey, you know what, I think, maybe I should really talk to them next about, they've got a pretty good credit score. I think they might be interested in a new mortgage because they would totally qualify based on everything that's in the background. And we think that they might be due really, really soon. So, this kind of ability to go and create some insight to provide some conversation to help genuinely empathize with the customer and help suggest things to them that are going to help. And then, of course, coming back to the frugal innovation, I'm pretty excited about the ability to provide as many pre-packaged applications as we do. So this is on our website. So for instance, if I think about the service entry sheets application, we've got a video here to take the old ML81N transaction, lock it in so that it is specifically aimed at somebody so they can't see everybody else's PO and everybody else's rates. So in terms of the idea of a customer that has the end of the month contractors chasing the supervisor down the hall so they can go get their timesheet approved. This app with the workflow and the approval through my inbox means that those timesheets are basically solved. And then getting the ability for a company to buy off of their own records by issuing the PO with a service line item, then receive off their own records, getting the service entry sheet workflow and approve it. Then you can use ERS through either ECC or S4 and automatically pay them, so you don't even need an invoice. So that kind of an innovation, I think, is really exciting. And I think everybody on the call has had to do a timesheet, so we were super excited here. Our packaged timesheet application, because timesheets suck. Let's be blunt. Nobody likes doing them, but we were super excited to be able to go and create our grid-based timesheet for Fiori that works on your smartphone and so on. So these are a couple of things in terms of, instead of custom building so much, let's design, think, and build something with a group of people, co-innovate with the group, and then offer a package solution so that instead of paying an SI $1 million to build a big complex app, license it for a tiny fraction of that. So that kind of a frugal innovation is something that we're super, super excited about. So that's in a tiny nutshell, some of the things that have gotten me obviously a little bit excited in the last little while.
That's awesome.
So we got some great questions coming in the Q&A. Dan, thanks for answering it in the tool, but I want to get this out there for everyone because it's an important one. At what point would you suggest that the client go to a native iOS or Android application versus web or hybrid? Many of the benefits that can be achieved in native applications can be handled to certain extents with Fiori. So good, very good question on that. And Dan, you want to take the first crack at it since you started answering already in the chat? And
no, I just pointed I pointed the answer to some of the mobile services SDKs that are out there. It's there's some good content. I am not that technical, so probably I'm more focused. I'm more interested in the prior to the technology and the solution. I'm more interested in the design thinking workshop, and yeah, that would be my approach to it. We wouldn't typically go into anything already knowing what that technology looks like. You get to that through the process. The guys on the panel might have a better opinion in terms of the technical answer to it, but that would be my approach.
No, I think I think you nailed the answer. It's not a technical one. You wouldn't go in saying, I need a mobile app. You'd say, I would like to approve this. My problem is I can't go back to my desk. I need to approve things when I'm on the road. And maybe the answer is take your app and move it to your phone in UI5, or maybe it's, well, I'm going to be doing this all day, every day. It needs to be fast. It needs to be experience. Oh, I need to take pictures. All right. Well, that would tend to point more towards a native approach. But I think the question and the pain point is what's going to guide the technology and not lead with the technology.
Yeah, but it isn't an interesting conversation, to be honest, because you do have a good mix of business requirements, user requirements, and then you have this kind of technical solution, and it's bringing them together in a kind of coherent way. That's normally, if you can master that, then you're on the right path.
Yeah, I think so. So to get technical a little bit, I think people, a couple things. A, people would be surprised by how much just a web app can do, just responsibly designing your phone. B,
yep.
Think about connectivity. If connectivity is terrible or unreliable, now you're starting to think a little more mobile. And C, think about specialty devices. So Bluetooth thingies that do a special thing with a mobile device or whatever. But outside of that, like you'd be surprised how often mobile web applications really fit your bill. So draw some strong choices there.
Recently, a good example, Paul, just like coming on the back of what you said,
yeah.
Engineering applications, we went into the first workshop, technical people were there as well as kind of end users, adamant that they needed mobile services when we couldn't kind of understand why. We thought maybe, Signal, they need mobile services so they can get Signal to the app. Yeah, everywhere these engineers had 4G signals or Wi-Fi built. So you need to, in my opinion, break down the technology thing quite early on and then jump into it a little bit later. Otherwise, you'll go down an alley that you're adding complexity into the build straight away.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, so we have a couple more questions in the Q&A, but actually I wanted to pitch something back to Andy because you've been obviously involved in a lot of these implementations from an SAP perspective. I mean, what from the Fiori side would you like to see, within the platform itself? What is it that Fiori should be doing to help kind of accelerate the innovation topic? What are the things that you'd like to see as you walk into these workshops?
So I think one of the things that we're already working on, but we definitely want to see more of that, is the unification aspect, right? I mean, we've got a lot of products out there and we're already working down that path. So the easier we can make it to have these seamlessly integrated with, one face to the customer is going to be huge wins, especially for those workflows, making it just easier to implement that stuff. That's one thing. I also want to see more natural language interaction. If it's up to me, you know, I have a 3-year-old, and he talks to the devices in my house all the time.
Yeah.
That's the way we're going. We need to see more of that.
Yeah.
It's just a natural way that we interact with everything around us. And we're doing some of it, but I want to see more of that. And then I want to start to get more of the sentiment analysis in real time from when our users are executing a process. So, you know, of course, I'm going to say Qualtrics. I want to see some integration there, so we can start really capturing those data points, because I think that's when we're going to really get some great learning from what our end users are doing, and really help to make processes just more efficient, better. And I think there's lots of opportunities there. So those are 3 things that I want to see more of.
Andy already started, like maybe towards the guys on the chat. What is so to say like your wish towards SAP Fiori? Like what would you like to see more of, or what is like something you haven't even seen yet and you say like, hey, this is a great idea, put it into Fiori?
Yeah, can I jump in with one thing on this too, guys?
Sure.
There's been great stuff recently in the last few years, and even more on the way, I think, in terms of from a so I'm a developer, and I work a lot with developers, and I work a lot with mentoring developers, and there are boatloads and boatloads of ABAP developers who are not web developers, but getting tools that let an ABAP person go, yep, my SAP data, here's an app, whatever can be done to do that will unlock so much value, so much.
That's a great point.
Like you wouldn't. I'm telling even you people, SAP people on the call, you don't understand how much it will unlock.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's a very good point, Paul. Thanks.
One of my favorite examples of what I'd love to see more of is the before and the after picture from the new Fiori app for sales order fulfillment. I think it really epitomizes the potential that we can all unlock with S4 and the right way to think about something. So the before question was, well, you know, what sort of sales orders are maybe have some sort of an issue or missing pricing, and then, you know, there's a different transaction and a different report to run through and look for, you know, things that haven't been confirmed, and then going through and looking for things that have a production delay and looking for a shipping invoicing delays. There's, you know, more than a dozen different things that you might have to run and check for reports and transactions. And then instead replacing that with a single goal-seeking application, wizard style, where you go from highlighting only the problems with a button that says, fix it. That idea, I think, epitomizes the kind of transition that we are all looking at an opportunity to make. Take 12 things that you used to go and have to hunt for problems for, and highlight only the problems with a simple button to go solve it. That's the kind of before and after innovation that I think makes all of our the whole ecosystem run better and run smoother and be easier. And it takes everybody that said SAP is too hard and too long and too slow, and it makes it so easy because you see the problems right away and you have a simple button to go fix it. There's no transaction code, there's no special reports, there's no having to figure out what the 3-digit code or 3-character code was. It just tells you in plain English. So I think that continues to be one of my favorite examples of an SAP built innovation, where you're taking a before that was hard to use and cryptic, and you needed a cheat sheet and training and everything else to interpret the problems once you've remembered what the transaction code was, to something that's literally hold your hand through solving the problem. And I love that example.
All right, we're wrapping up here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here to provide a feedback opportunity for everybody on future chats. So you can go ahead and you can go to this website. I'm also typing a link into the chat for everybody to use directly for future topics. And in the meantime, Eugen, you want to help kind of close with any further questions or last comments?
First of all, like a big thank you to the attendees of the panel. It was a great conversation. Like, I think great to see that there's a lot of innovation going on with Fiori. So thanks a lot to you guys, and thanks Andy also for joining. Would like to have you like back in one of the next Fiori-side chat sessions. I bet we will see you again. And then with regards to next week, actually, we obviously have been very, very good at SAP to keep implementing SAP Fiori and how to do that actually as secrets. So we said, like, why don't we actually have a dedicated session on the secrets of implementing SAP Fiori? So after today, we learned innovating is possible. Now we actually learn that implementing it is possible as well. And we wanted to have a panel discussion on that one next Tuesday, same time, same place. So that will definitely come. And then as Keith mentioned, feel free, so to say, like to let us know what else you would like to see in other sessions. And I see already like SAP Fiori implementation is one of them. So as I mentioned, like next week, the secrets of SAP Fiori implementations.
Actual special secrets, yes. All right, so while people are filling those in, I want to send up personal thanks to Andy, Paul, Sean, Dan. Thank you all for your unique perspectives and supporting, obviously customers and Fiori in general, right? We're still innovating on both sides of the technology and the business processes, and I think you brought both of those perspectives together here, and that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah,
great. Okay, I think with the additional suggestions coming in, I think we can close this call and the session today. So again, thanks everybody, and see you very soon again. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone.
All right, thanks everyone.
Bye guys.
Bye.